Hello, hello. Welcome to episode 95 of the Lorethrough, and today we are handling Leyndell proper, the divine capital. So, last time, which was a little bit ago for me, I'm afraid, we entered the very edge of the capital rampart, and we saw that there was an older part of the city, a side entrance, not the main front door, that we saw in the intro cinematic. The big gates that are over here, right? We came in this little side entrance. And here we see an older style of architecture. We also saw statues of the Sword Saint monks and their particular culture all about. We see these banners of what I think are the Great Tree. They're a little more narrow. They're red. We see them in Stormvale. We see them in Volcano Manor. They're all in bad condition. And then as we exit the slightly older part of the city, we start to see the newer modifications. We see these golden Erd Tree banners as opposed to Great Tree banners. And we see this Crucible prophet here, who I think has connections to the Dynast prophet. And we have commoners laying about, and they're totally passive. This is easily a very forgotten part of the city, it seems. We snuck our way in, as Soulsborne protagonists are prone to do in great divine cities of the gods. You just break in. And we also see these huge piles of ash and golden leaves. In fact, they're still falling about. It's kind of funny that a tree so big has tiny leaves, actually, now that I think about it. So come in here, and we have a broken down part of the wall. There's roots growing over it, so there's still life here of some capacity. And an abyss. Another fellow, more ash, and another site of grace. We start to hear what sounds like, I think like a violin just a screeching. But now we have a site of grace, and we have a handful of things we can look at in this room. There are these more ornate trees, and it looks like they have little figures on them, very faintly. Kind of reminiscent of the Tree of Jesse, or Yeshua, I forget how it's pronounced. I'm going to say Jesse, because that's how it's spelled in English, so forgive my ignorance, since I don't remember offhand how it is pronounced. But yeah, we have a bunch of figures here, and we've seen this design, a similar design to it, right? And we saw a design similar to it on the big old wooden throne at Stormvale Castle, right after the Godric boss fight. At the top of this tree, it seems there's a little structure there, that little box. We don't know what that is, but maybe we can figure it out by the end of Leyndell. We also see these dividers that also have seem to have an Erd Tree scrolled on them. Let me get a little farther away. That also have figures standing on the boughs, right? We have these diffusers used by perfumers. There's an old banner right there, a red one. There's mostly these gold banners. Very nice chandeliers. Materials hanging from the ceiling. Perhaps this was a little room that was used for storage for perfumers at some point in time. Maybe it was so they could easily get access to the rampart because we're relatively close to it. Could be. Alright. So, another thing to note. Leyndell, Royal Capital. The word Leyndell seems to derive from the old British word ley, which means untilled, and dale, which means grove. So Leyndell could mean untilled grove. So, just a little tidbit there. Let's take a seat at this grace, because we have some dialogue with Melina. And Bach showed up back there.
My utmost thanks for bringing me to the base of the Erd Tree. Here, I can govern my own movement, and thus, the accord is fulfilled. I shall depart to ascertain the purpose I was given. Farewell. I shall leave Torrent, and the power to turn runes into strength. Here, with you, I wish you luck in realizing your ambition. You have fought long and hard I have no doubt you will become Elden Lord. May you take the throne.
So, we part ways for now. She says she can now move about freely. Now, had we defeated the draconic tree sentinel outside Leyndell and tried to gain access to the city before killing two shard bearers, we would have seen a big golden barrier blocking the way. So it seems that Melina, in some capacity, couldn't get access to the foot of the Erd Tree proper and actually needed us to get here herself, despite her spiritual nature. But once we have gotten within the walls, she says she is able to freely move about herself. Well, let's speak with Bok, see how he's doing.
Bok the seamster, at your service, my lord. Ready to make adjustments to your garments.
And he has some dialogue for us. He asks, "Did you see it?"
My lord, did you see it? The Erd Tree. I don't really have the words for this, but I was so dazzled. I felt something stir in my breast. The Erd Tree is waiting for you, my lord. I know it, I do. I feel it in my bones. Oh, please, take the throne of Elden Lord.
So he asks us if we've seen the Erd Tree, and it's kind of a preposterous question. We could see it for miles, right? But it's not until we really breach the city that he is suddenly dazzled by its sight, right? And we'll talk about the rest of the city in just a moment. But he's suddenly dazzled by it. It's breathtaking to him, as I stutter about trying to put the words together myself. And to me, this could be very well confirmation bias, but it seems to me that suddenly he can see the Erd Tree in its golden glory, and not just the tree stump that I think is beneath, personally. That I think that that wooden slat right there in the middle, that's the tallest point of the Erd Tree, and that the rest of it is essentially a stump, that it's been... something bad has happened to it. And sure enough, we see more of these piles of ash, and they're not even under the giant statue of a dragon, right? Where you'd think the ash would be if this was a dragon that was petrified and sloughing bits off. So it makes me think, kind of like how we talked to the finger reader outside, who asked a silly question, can we see the Erd Tree, right? I think Bok has suddenly, upon gaining access to Leyndell proper, he can now see the Erd Tree. Which he's not a tarnished, or at least I don't believe he is. There's no reason to indicate he is. And so I don't think he's guided by grace, but maybe there's something about proximity that allows you to see the Erd Tree. Maybe you need some sort of spirit sight to see it, I don't know. But he just seems encapsulated. Sorry, not encapsulated. He seems captivated by seeing the Erd Tree all of a sudden when it was not really much in his dialogue at all before, from what I recall. Let's continue speaking with him.
Bok the seamster, at your service, my lord. Ready to make adjustments to your garments.
And have you ever thought so?
My lord, have you ever wished you might be born again? Well, they say that Renala of Rea Lucaria has the power to help people be reborn. Oh, me? Reborn? Oh, look at me. When you're this ugly, well, being reborn, it would hardly make a difference, I'm afraid.
So we have the option to give him a larval tear. And I think I'll explore this on a different character, and I'll find a time to show that off. But for now, I think we are going to pull out an item. A handy-dandy item. I guess it doesn't matter. We are going to find the Your Beautiful Prattling Pate. And we're going to use it on him.
You're beautiful.
I always thought they were a little too quiet, personally. And let's talk with him.
Bok the seams ready to make...
I heard a voice.
Did I just hear my mum speaking? Thank you very much. Mum was always the only one who said I was beautiful. And now, my dear lord, let me hear her voice. Oh, please, if I may dream just once, Do you feel the same way my mum did, my lord? Do you think I'm beautiful despite these looks?
Sure, that's right. You are indeed beautiful, Bach.
Oh, my lord, my dear lord, I, Bach the seamster, am forever in your service. May the throne of Elden Lord be yours. We're going already, please.
Okay, I don't think he has anything else to say to us.
Bach the ready to make...
And I think this is where he resides for the rest of the game. Happy as can be to be our seamster. Yeah, I think I'll take another character at some point and show off the other branch that happens if you give him a larval tier. It's the bad ending, spoiler alert. But now we go into Leyndell proper. We're taking so long just to get into it. But we see these golden tiled rooftops about, magnificent architecture, grand buildings, a coliseum in the distance, a huge dragon, and what looks like some sort of weird twisting bolt or spear plunged into the city itself. There's a huge dragon. Comically large, honestly. Where did I put? There we go. But let's get to it. I will point out things as we go about. So we have these bubble blower boys. And they have no legs. These spindly arms, this pallid blue skin. It's very odd. And they have these circular patterns, like embossed on the cloth that they're wearing. See? I'm surprised he's not getting pissed at me. He's supposed to be getting mad at me. And they just kind of rotate about. But yeah, they have these weird bubble... not bubble, these bubble-shaped head wraps. And they have these sickly smooth features. Honestly, looking up close, it looks like their nostrils closed off. Which could be the fact that they just don't expect you to look much closer. I think this one will turn violent. Yep. There it is. And they're not the toughest in the world. They can provide a little bit of cover, if given time, as an invader. Because they shoot bubbles, and the bubbles kind of disappear and appear on your position to deal damage. So their travel, if they even have any, as far as the game scripting is concerned, the bubbles have no easily discernible travel time. And there's a large one there, guarding an item, and he had a long horn. And let's take a look at those horns since I grabbed them beforehand for convenience. Envoy's horn, golden horn of the Oracle Envoys, profoundly weighty. Its blows are sure to be felt. Originally an instrument, but one that cannot be sounded by a mere human, or perhaps it is too early to sound the call. To sound the call. Yep. And let's see, long golden horn of the Oracle Envoys, proudly weighty, its blows are sure to be felt. Originally an instrument, but this one cannot be sounded by a mere human, so it sounds the same. They are, it's kind of interesting. The small one is a dex-leaning weapon with a faith requirement, and the other one is a faith-leaning weapon with a strength and dex requirement. And though we won't see it for some time, there is a third variant that I think is a strength version. So you get a faith, a strength, and a dex version of the same weapon. So everybody can get it. And they have different abilities. The basic one shoots the oracular bubble. Blow on the horn to release a magic bubble. The bubble floats gently through the air towards its target. Blow on the horn to release a spume of magic bubbles. The bubbles float gently before raining down on the target. So one does a cascade, one does a single. And they have pretty good homing, though they are pretty slow. Right? Let me see. Okay. I was just looking over my notes to see if I missed anything while we were getting to this point. And I think when we were looking at the tapestries with the people in the trees, I forgot to read off a note I had. So in the Old Testament, in the book of Isaiah, chapter 11, verse 1, it says, "And there shall come forth a rod out of the stem of Jesse, a branch shall grow of its roots." So that seems to be the inspiration for that specific icon, right? The developers seem to have patterned the genealogical Erd tree after the Tree of Jesse, which can be seen in St. Andrew's Castle, Scotland, 17th century specifically. This tree can also be found on the high-backed chair with the Tree of Jesse, and that can be found in the Metropolitan Museum of Art, 15th century. Okay. So I think we're good there. Let's move forward. I don't mean to move so slow. I'll get up to speed. I hope so. I'm trying to have a certain amount of this game done by the time we reach episode 100, if I can. Which I don't know if I'll get to the point I'd like to by episode 100. I was hoping episode 100 would be a recap episode. The more I've thought about it, the more I like the idea of spending an hour or so just trying to recap what we've learned so far briefly. I won't be able to get every detail by any means, but there is a fellow over here. I'm flubbing these. Let's reset him. Wow. Absolutely flubbing it. There we go. I don't parry the pages very often. I feel like they have suspiciously high poise and a weird attack pattern. Alright, Smith and Stones. We have more of these weird fellows. Honestly, they remind me of Elbenurix, but there's nothing in the lore to tie them to it. Oh, and you can backstab them if you were curious. You can also jump down onto the rooftops from here if you so choose. There are imps, though, so be wary. It looks like a cat-faced imp. But we enter this room here, and we see more stuff reminiscent of the perfumers, including their little... Ah, shucks. All right. We're gonna run this for a little bit. Maybe we'll run it like this. Yeah, we can still light roll. And we're gonna take the elevator. And we see there is a body in the window. It looks like another one of those bodies like we saw specifically at the Volcano Manor that had a seedbed curse. So it's a little hint of us needing to go on the top of this domed building, which I believe... That was a weird graphical thing. Or I'm seeing things again. Very possible. Perfumers tending to the sick and dead, by the looks of it. Some are dead, others are sick. And unresponsive, kind of like the earlier ones we saw. Makes me wonder what's happening here exactly. The ideal city of the gods is almost always in a terrible state of being when you find it in these games. So I'm curious to know what on earth is happening here. But yeah, here's the dome that's caved in. Very nice building. Couches, tree sentinel statues, and a seedbed curse. There's lots of different ways you can go about Leyndell. Oh, banished knight halberds, swords, and a shield. I haven't noticed this in particular before, but that's interesting that they're here. And it seems to be placed in a place of prominence. And look, they are more gold than they've ever been. They've always been like a really soft gold, but now they're like this deep gold color. Look at that. That's interesting. The weapons, too. Trying to see if there's anything unique. It just kind of looks like a study of some kind. I'm going to hop down here. We have things to explore. I think out here in this courtyard specifically, we have a page playing the flute. Kind of neat. Almost want to leave him alive, but I want the item he's guarding. There we go. What were you whistling in front of? Flouting in front of? A smithing stone. And this is obviously a very decadent place. Okay. And we have a slew of enemies in here that will cause all sorts of problems if we allow them to. So I think we're going to hit them with some war crimes. And for some reason, it is still taking the frame rate. I just couldn't tell too easily. Wow, look at him go. Anyway, this is a room that often gets people killed just because there's a page and 2 perfumers in it. And they're kind of tough enemies. Yeah, that thing did like 1,700 damage. This fellow's not alive, but his head is drenched in red. It could have been what I just did, actually. Kind of interesting that he's petrified in a crouching position. Well, sort of a hunched forward position, but he's not like prostrate or anything like that. He's not on his belly. Like, there's a lot of fellows like this that are just frozen. Well, that's weird. Petrified, almost. And there we find a slew of warming stones. We finally have found enough. Ten Miranda powders. And with the power tax, we're able to deal with this Leyndell Knight. We haven't seen... Actually, we saw a couple outside the walls, so I shouldn't say it's our first time seeing him since Liurnia. That would not be truthful. Over here in the corner. Piercing Fang, along with Impaling Strike, ignores shields, if I recall, so that's very useful against these big boys. Kind of funny how the most basic of Ashes of War, like Impaling Thrust, is just so darn useful. So we come to this building that he was in front of, and there's just heaps of ash all over the place. It seems to be getting a little worse. And the outside edges of this are sealed in a sort of wax by the look of it. See that? Maybe it's honey. But it's definitely sealed for some reason. And there's no discernible window. Oh, sorry. The windows up there are also sealed. So the openings to the building are sealed. Why would they need to seal it like that? Right? Well, if there's ash coming from somewhere, right? And lots of it, heaps of it, you wouldn't want it in your house. You'd be sweeping all day. It'd be miserable. So it makes sense you would seal your home to keep the dust out. But what event would cause so much dust to happen? Well, it seems likely to me, and I could be just speculating here, that the Erd Tree is damaged already. Physically, not the spiritual form we see before us, but the physical form of the Erd Tree has already been damaged. See, here's more heaps of ash just in between the buildings, filling it up. And we also know from the pyromancy incantations that burning the Erd Tree is considered a cardinal sin. A really, really bad one. And so, what if the Erd Tree was burned once before? Just level with me for a moment. What if it was burned once before, and that's what caused the ash? Burning causes ash, right? Here's another one of them waxed up buildings. What if it was like the Dust Bowl? Oh. The Dust Bowl in America being a period of time in the early 1900s, I believe, where over-farming had created dust storms that would invade people's homes, and those people would use wax paper, I believe, to seal up their homes to keep the dust out. And so this might be their version of that wax, see? Or that wax paper is this stuff plugging up the buildings. And sure enough, the Erd Tree is huge that if it did catch fire, and the fire spread to a good amount of it, it would be absolutely abysmal. See, there's patches of dust in the streets even. I'm trying to see if there's heaps of dust over there. We'll head over there in a bit. I should be trying to go faster. We're like 25 minutes in. I barely scratched Leyndell. Oh, here's a heap of ash. Another one. So, sure enough, they exist. Okay. I think I'm done restoring my health all willy-nilly. I know there's enemies here, and I want to get at them smartly. I just don't remember how exactly. Well, the knight's dealt with at least. Do I have anything to deal with groups? A little bit. Oh, that looked funny. Just stay back. I have a great sword. A carrion one. It's really long. It's probably the easiest time I've ever had with all those enemies. I could have used the war crimes, I guess. And in the corner we find the imp head. Corpse, specifically. Alright, so the cat one does intelligence. The wolf one does endurance. And the corpse one does faith. And there's a lot of these. I think there's one for every style. But I haven't farmed all the imp heads. I should, but the descriptions are almost identical, so it's not that important. And here we have a set of double doors. I think I'll crack them open just so we can take a peek. I could head this direction, actually. There is stuff to grab. So if you want the iron greatsword like I'm using, it's actually up here where you probably have to go to farm it. There are some misbegotten here. Why are they here? Don't know, but the ash is way worse here. And the buildings that weren't made of stone seem to have eaten it in some capacity. Yeah, look at that. Even on the map, it looks like it's filled with dust. So, do I do this part? I don't know. I think we should. Even if it's just to show off something else. There we go. Beast blood, blood for the beasties. Okay, so here we have more ash. This is a more derelict part of the city. I wouldn't normally go here first for any capacity, but I think narratively it ties in with what I was talking about. So we see dogs and misbegotten scavenging the remains of this beautiful city. It is not so idyllic down here. In fact, it seems kind of muggy. And we have a bunch of water. Is it clean? I wouldn't test it, not with all this ash about. Alright, lightning-proof dried liver. Yeah, they're just kind of eating up whatever commoner they have access to. By the looks of it. But around the corner here we have a red legionnaire, leonine misbegotten, and a dog. And he has the big sword that we're using even. Ours is a lot smaller though, which is kind of funny. We actually get a good sight of one of these guys, because normally they disappear because they are a boss. But he's got that red mane, kind of reminiscent of Radigan. I think in the game files they're referred to the misbegotten as Radigan's children. Whether or not that's canon anymore is up for debate. But their red mane seems to be a tie there. We have a perfume bottle and a dog that's just not hostile. It's almost like they forgot to turn on his hostility. But since he is not hostile, and he looks like he's in horrid shape anyways, we're going to leave him there. Why not? I wish we could pull out Torrent for this part, though. I think I'm going to explore what's up here, and then we will grab a shortcut to the first grace that we found. I think we'll cut the episode there. That sounds like a good spot to me. So we have to work our way up the hill. Just wrecking some horribly withered branches in the way. Glad we could capitalize on that. Anyone else nearby? They're sleeping. Oh, we got his axe. Funny. And an old fang. More sleepy time grease. And here we have a Sword Saint statue that is being prayed to by one of the medium-sized misbegotten. Interestingly enough, the medium-sized misbegotten is almost identical to Blacksmith Hewig, except for their hair is a little different, and they gave him a beard. I don't even remember if he has a tail this length, though. I'll have to check. They might have also removed his tail. Does Master Hewig have a tail? Is this the Mandela effect? Why would we kill him if he's just worshipping? I think he might turn around and assault us when somebody blows the alarm. And I wanted the Somber Stone, so... Call me a monster. Just don't call me late for dinner. Kind of funny how that's a boss in an earlier part of the game, and now it's just a run-of-the-mill enemy. I want to lock up. I want to kill this one. Jeez, that does so much damage. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Woo. Sprint. Oh, dear. My inventory is all sorts of cluttered. Horribly ravenous creatures. As I... Just moving too much. What a waste. Funny how they still take posture damage. Where's that other one? Drink another flask. Put on the get our health back talisman. And not all of them woke up to the fight, though. But it's quite the fight, and if you go up the stairs as normal, there are some bait items that would lure you into this trap. There we go. And we can see what they are. I don't think they're anything really of value, but we'll check. Exalted Flesh, kind of valuable. Nascent Butterfly, not worth getting yourself killed over. More piles of ash. There's that lower part earlier with the passive dog. And here we see more Sword Saint statues. So why would the Misbegotten get so close just to worship something else? They're not worshipping the Erd Tree, at least the one wasn't. And we have a big old elevator like this. I'm just speckled with blood. Which reminds us of the elevator we couldn't activate over at the Divine Bridge. The one that is over on this side. That's where the Divine Bridge site of grace is. There's all these Sword Saint statues. So perhaps this is also part of an older part of the city. This kind of rampart stretch here. Where we entered in and are now leaving, it looks like. This is an exit to the city. And sure enough, we see those Erd Tree reliefs, the narrow ones, kind of like the red banners we saw earlier. These monks seem to be holding books as well. Alright. He was pulling out a perfume, I saw that. And what item was he guarding? Flame Drake Talisman +1. So funny how we see... I guess it's not funny necessarily, but it reminds me of the Bolt Drake Talisman. Oh. Sealed by Morgoth the Grace-Given. I'm experiencing a graphical glitch right here. There's supposed to be a big golden barrier right here. We can't see past this normally. Oh, that's a shame. Oh, that's awful. Let me, quit to main menu and load back in. Come on, video game. I was coming here to show off the seal before it's gone. Because I mentioned earlier how if we tried to gain access to Leyndell before getting 2 shard bearers killed and gaining their great runes. There it is. Okay. So this is the golden barrier that's normally in front of it, and strangely enough, it looks like, even though it's the... It looks like the cipher symbol that the 2 fingers use on their incantations, right? It's also on the cipher Pada. Punch, holy dagger, fist, dagger, punch thing that we have. Oh, that was awful. And when we look at it, it says Morgoth the Grace-Given. And we've heard a little bit about Morgoth the Grace-Given. We don't know hardly anything about him, right? But, I believe, Gideon Ofnir mentioned him in passing, and essentially said, don't worry about him till later. But, presumably, he's the Lord of Leyndell. And he has sealed the door. And I think that seal is also on the front of the Leyndell. And that it seems that the 2 fingers open the seal when we get 2 shard bearers. They're willing to exert that effort. Okay. What to use now? I'm kind of still disappointed in myself for not having any fire weapons. What's wrong with me? We'll use this weapon, and then we'll make the swap, I suppose. Okay. Don't worry, I'm trying to hurry with the episode. I don't want all my episodes to be 40 minutes to an hour long. It just seems to be happening as of late. It's me. I'm the problem. And my horrible cutoff points. Alright, so if we work our way over here to the right, we have this little fountain area, kind of circular, almost like a micro plaza. And we have more statues of the Crucible Priest, or Prophet. In here, of this very ornate place, nice tiles, a larger statue of the Crucible Prophet, with more of the sprouting great tree turning into the Erd tree, I believe. So, maybe my continuity is a little whack, right? But it seems that there's a great tree at some point in history, and the great tree got wrecked. And then the Erd tree grew out of it during the Crucible era, and then the Erd tree got wrecked, and now it's just this spiritual manifestation we see before us. I don't really... It makes me wonder if actually the ash burning was the great tree and not the Erd tree. And the Erd tree is just the golden part. That's weird. Alright, I'll have to think about that more later. I don't think that's true. No. According to descriptions we've seen from items, there have been blessings of the Erd tree when it was physical and acknowledged by all, so... Come on, do the spin. Yay, he did the spin! Sorry, bucko. Looks like I'm just slamming him with the haft of the pickaxe and not actually the head of it. There we go. Find a hero's rune, which is a good amount of money. Golden rune. These golden placards, which kind of look like the blue placards that we saw sealed up on the outside of windows outside. Potentially recolor. Well, we're going up here. Kind of want to look at the description difference in runes. Let's see. Nourishment for the development of any tarnish, provided a finger maiden can be found. Even now, runes are still imbued with the power of life itself. Do you see the Erd tree towering o'er? Another question. Can we see the Erd tree? As if it wasn't obvious. Of course we could see the Erd tree. Those born at the foot of the Erd tree are blessed. At least that is the enduring belief of the people of the plateau. Melina said she was born at the foot of the Erd Tree. Kind of interesting. The grace of gold bless those who are first to serve it with the most vivid coloration. Newman rune. The Newman are said to have come from outside the lands between and are in fact the same stock as Queen Marika herself. Heroes rune 1, 2, 3. Yeah, they have the same. There were once heroes who walked the battlefields abundantly blessed by the Erd Tree itself, who upon earning their honor simply died. And we have this door we can open up, and here we find ourselves back at the beginning with Bach. But we have a nice shortcut to get to the main promenade of Leyndell, which we will explore next time in episode 96. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you have a good one, and bye-bye.